Hi, you guys, and welcome to upper appendicular skeleton. We're going to continue on to the humerus, the radius, and the ulna. So I want to show you on our guy here. Here's the humerus and the radius. He's in anatomical position, so radius is lateral and the ulna is medial. And then we'll look at the hand later on also. Okay, so here he is waving at you guys, and what we're going to start looking at then is the first of these bones. That's the humerus. So what I want you to do is go down your list. So you have a list on Canvas, whether you've copied it or printed it out or whatever. Have it in front of you so that we can go through it. And I'll start with the humerus. So with the humerus, the first thing is, I don't think you can ever get it upside down. You would never think that it would be like this, right? Because it's got a perfect little ball there for it to go into the socket. So let's figure out first, is it a right or a left? The one that I have. So here's the ball, the socket, and one possibility is that I put it like this, and then the ball would be pointing laterally. That kind of wouldn't work. And the other possibility is that the ball would insert into my shoulder like this, so that seems like it's the right way for this bone. So on me, remember anatomical position, it's my right. This is a right. Good. Now on your list, the first structure you have is the head. Easy. We're never going to mess it up with that one, right? That's the head. Good. Then we have two bumps here. Do you notice? Bump, bump. And if I keep this in the correct position, there is one that's more anterior. This one. This is more anterior and it's smaller. So if it's smaller, it's going to be the lesser tubercle. And this other one that's sort of more lateral and bigger is going to be the greater tubercle. Great word, tubercle. So anterior is the lesser, lateral here is the greater tubercle. And between them, there's going to be, a pencil, between them there's a sulcus or an indentation there. So that sulcus is called the bicipital groove, if you like that word, or the intertubercular. So if it's between the tubercles, then it's intertubercular groove or sulcus. Either one of those is correct. If you were to put that on a test, it's correct. So the two bumps and the groove that is in the center. Okay? All right. Then we're going to move on to a structure that's called the deltoid tuberosity, and it's not as visible as what I just showed you. It's just kind of a rough area. So this rough area is where the deltoid is going to insert the muscle. So you know that your deltoids are the muscle that comes over the shoulder, and it's going to come over and insert onto this outer surface here of the humerus. And if you had the bone in your hand, you could feel that it's a rough edge, and that is the deltoid tuberosity. Okay? And that's all you need to know. It's the manual is separated by what's on the head and what's sort of in the center, and then we're going to go down to this lower area down here. So the first thing I want to show you down at the bottom here is what is a condyle. So a condyle is the region of the bone. Let me put this behind some paper. So a condyle is a region of the bone that is the smooth. Do you notice this area is very smooth here because that's where the other bone is going to form a joint. So that's called the condyle. So these three bumps, bump 1, 2, and 3, are shiny, smooth. They're the condyles. Now, everything that's around the condyle but not quite part of the condyle is called an epicondyle. So notice that this part here is not part of the condyle. It's not part of these shiny three. So it's called an epicondyle. And then if I rotate this a little bit, find the best way to show you guys. Also on the other side is going to be an epicondyle. So I'm going to hold this by the epicondyles. Do you notice? So I'm holding this one epicondyle and the other epicondyle. Those are not actually part of the condyle, which is part of the joint. Okay, so knowing that then, and knowing that this is on my right, I'm going to have one that points medially, and this then, pointing medially, is the medial epicondyle. And the one on the other side is the lateral epicondyle. Okay, good. Then we're going to go to these 3 bumps, okay, that we want to look at. One of them I think of as very rounded and looks like a little ball, and it looks like a cap that you'd wear on your head. So cap, think of that, because the name is capitulum. So that is the capitulum. And it's going to form the joint with another bone. So look, it's going to be where the radius forms a joint. Okay, so that's the region for one of the bones. And then the other 2 bumps there are the region of where my second bone is going to form a joint. So the rounded cap is the capitulum, and the other is the trochlea. I don't know what is the best way to show you. So one rounded, and then this is a rounded, and then the other 2 bumps here are part of one, and they're called the trochlea because that's going to be the joint for another bone. Okay, capitulum and trochlea. After that, we have a couple of fossae, or fossa, remember, a hole that doesn't go all the way through. And that's one that's here. And then when I turn it around, another one in the back. So one that's anterior and one that's posterior. So the posterior one is called the olecranon fossa. Olecranon fossa. And the anterior one is the coronoid fossa. Coronoid fossa, and in the back, olecranon fossa. Sorry, hold it in my hand. Okay? And that's where, the other bone is going to hook and come around. Okay, bring it this way. The last thing that's on your list is this ridge that's called the lateral supracondylar ridge. Supra, above, condylar, the condyles, and it's the ridge. So one of my students once came up with this thing to remember the fossae, and he called it on the posterior part ole corona, like a beer. Olecranon, coronoid fossa. Olecranon fossa, coronoid. Whatever makes you remember it, and that's fine. Okay? And that is everything that we needed to see on the humerus. So remember, you're looking at condyles, epicondyles, and then on the head, you just have the tubercles. Okay? Now you're going to look at extra drawings. You can look at the McGraw-Hill drawings. They've got excellent drawings there, and you'll get a better idea of what these look like. Good. There's my bone. Okay, I'm going to move on then and move on to the radius. Radius has a really funny head here, remember, because it's going to form a joint then with that capitulum. It's going to be able to rotate. So you can look on here, and this guy isn't as precise, but this is what's going to be able to roll, and I can't do it on this guy, but what's so cool about this is that you can rotate one bone over the other one. One bone rotates over the other one. And the reason you can do that is because it has this head that can go like this and rotate over the ulna. Okay? So ulna and radius rotate over each other when not in anatomical position. Okay, so the radius has a head. That's good. And then it has, I'll rotate it for you, this bump here, and that's called the radialtuberosity. Radialtuberosity, the tuberosity of the radius. That's good. Thinking that maybe with background here. Okay. Maybe with a black background it helps. Yeah, you can see the tuberosity. Okay. The only other structures that you need to see on this are this little pointy protrusion that's on the lower end of it, so on the distal end, and that is the styloid process. Styloid means pointy, like a stylus, like a pen, pointy. So that's your stylus process. And the other important structure here is that there's an indentation here that fits my pen or my finger very nicely here, and that is going to be the region where the other bone rubs up against it. It sort of fits in that groove, where the ulna fits in that groove. So it's the ulnar, because it's the other bone, the ulnar notch, as it's going to fit in that space there, the ulnar notch. So in the distal position then, you're just going to have those two structures, which are the styloid process and the ulnar, styloid process and the ulnar notch. Okay. And that takes us on to back to the ulna. Ulna is cool because it spells U, right? It has a U right there, and so you're going to remember that that's the ulna. And the ulna has the trochlear notch, and this is, when we talked about the fossa that are in the humerus, this is going to hook onto here and work like this, correct? So the name of the fossae, which was ole, corona, are the same for ole, corona. So up here is the olecranon process, and the lower lip of this is the coronoid process. Olecranon process and coronoid process. And those are going to go into the olecranon fossa and then comes up into the coronoid fossa. Okay, those will fit. And this is just the whole space here is called the trochlear notch. Remember what the trochlea was? The trochlea was this region here. So if this is going to hook from the back and right on there, it's the notch for the trochlea. Up in the proximal region, there is another sort of indentation there where this radius is going to rotate along like this. When you pronate and supinate, it's going to be able to rotate, and it leaves an indentation there, and that indentation right there then is called the radial notch. Oh, how close I can get to the camera. Radial notch. And if we keep going down, it too has a little protrusion there, and that is the styloid process. Styloid process. So they both have styloid process, which is a sharp little protrusion that you can see there. Gosh, better with that black background. There we go. Okay, what comes next are the bones of the hand. So I'm going to stop this now, and then I'll take you to that in a little bit on the next video. Thanks.